Today on Investigate TV Plus, critical coastal land disappearing as scientists track a rising tide.
Wetlands cannot keep up with those rates. They will probably drown within perhaps half a century.
We travel to a vanishing coast to see billion-dollar efforts to keep vital land above water. But for some, the changes come at a cost.
It breaks my heart to know that people just don't care that we're going to lose our livelihoods.
Plus, closing cold cases to bring families closure decades later.
It's a treasure trove for anyone wanting to see the real-world impact of DNA and genetic genealogy.
The interactive database used for high-tech crime solving and how you can access it too.
Plus, robots at restaurants.
When I first came in, we saw it and I was like, wow.
Why you could see more wired waiters serving up meals the next time you eat out.
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus. Scientists are saying it's a severe threat to your health and well-being. As the World Meteorological Organization reports, Earth is warming up at a faster rate than any point in recorded history. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. In November of 2023, the average global temperature was one of the hottest on record and reached a threshold not seen since the pre-industrial age. Experts say it's a warning that our climate is changing at a rapid pace and we have to adapt.
The stakes are high in coastal communities across the country, perhaps nowhere more than Louisiana, where the state is spending billions of dollars on an ambitious effort to restore the environment.
But reporter John Snell finds rising seas could swamp their efforts.
We'll try to get you out up here.
Ryan Lambert steers his boat through an exception to the rule.
All this was a mudflat, every bit of this 3 months ago.
About 30 miles from the mouth of the Mississippi River, patches of new land pop to the surface in one of the few areas where the river still connects to wetlands.
It's hard to even imagine how it can grow like this.
Long before it became a superhighway of commerce, the river coughed up mountains of sediment to build South Louisiana.
Look at that Minnesota right there, little Kansas. Isn't that beautiful?
The river drains parts or all of 31 states and 2 Canadian provinces. But man messed up the plumbing.
The river built Louisiana in the first place, and we levied it off and we took the sediment away from our estuaries. And our estuaries are dying wherever the river isn't touching.
Over the last century, Louisiana lost about 2,000 square miles of land, an area roughly the size of Delaware. Here, in an unpopulated area where the river broke through its bank, environmental activists say the Mississippi once more builds marsh. The state's coastal director, Bren Haas, saw it for the first time about 5 years ago.
There wasn't a whole lot of land here, to be honest with you. It was mostly open water, and it just didn't look as alive as it does now.
And,
but
I mean, we're walking on pretty solid land here.
This is solid land. This could, you could support a car or truck on this if you were able to get it out here.
Louisiana is throwing billions of dollars at the issue, rocking parts of its coastline, pumping mud to restore barrier islands, the first lines of defense against hurricanes, and important habitats for thousands of nesting birds. Simone Malaz directs the group Restore the Mississippi River Delta.
We can bring it to other coastal cities and other parts of the world and show them how we're meeting the challenge head on here.
It's a battle of many fronts. Decades ago, man sliced and diced the wetlands with oil field canals, which drew salt water into freshwater marsh. And scientists warn rising seas could swamp the entire effort.
We have to address climate change. We have to address that. And for us, there is more at stake than for most other places around the world.
Tulane researcher Torbjorn Turnquist co-authored a recent study warning rising seas pose an urgent threat to the world's coastal wetlands.
How the global wetlands will look by the end of the century in the year 2100 will depend very, very much on how much warming is going to happen during that time.
The key number is 2. Researchers find that if global warming since the start of the industrial age remains below 2 degrees Celsius, the world's coastal wetlands will probably survive. Higher temperatures would likely lead to widespread collapse, with sea levels rising 1/4 of an inch per year, double today's average.
Wetlands cannot keep up with those rates. They will probably drown within perhaps half a century.
Turnquist looked at the geological history of coastal wetlands through other periods of rising seas.
Sea level rise will continue, even in the best case scenario. But we still have an opportunity to prevent the rate of sea level rise to accelerate to, really dangerous rates.
Louisiana's land loss so far has actually had little to do with what most people imagine when they think of rising seas. Instead, the concern here is relative sea level rise. Scientists tell us since 1900, the world's oceans have risen an average of 5 to 8 inches. Along parts of Louisiana's coast, the land subsided a few feet or more. Cut off from the river, the wetlands sank. The state hopes to reconnect the plumbing through projects like a $3 billion effort to mimic the river's land-building power, pumping river water into the wetlands 30 miles south of New Orleans.
Everywhere we see the river connected with our coast, we see things like this happening.
The project has plenty of critics who point out its estimated cost in recent years more than doubled. They fear massive amounts of fresh water and fertilizer runoff would devastate fisheries. Oystermen have already signaled they plan to sue to try to stop the project.
It breaks my heart to know that people just don't care that we're going to lose our livelihoods, even the state itself.
Oyster grower Mitch Jurasich points out pumping mud builds land virtually instantly versus the years it would take for a diversion to produce results if it works.
We won't be able to tell people I told you so, and the generation that comes up behind us won't know any better.
There are even voices in the scientific community who believe the Delta is doomed, that the state's efforts to battle the seas amount to a fool's errand.
That option is unthinkable in my mind. With a natural tool like we've got here in coastal Louisiana, the Mississippi River, that we've got a real fighting chance. We see it before our eyes, we see it right here.
For his part, Torbjorn Turnquist sees the river as the best tool at the state's disposal. As Louisiana fights the sea, some of those most affected by the change are deeply divided over how to save what's left.
The danger is that we're missing out on the big picture, and the big picture is if we don't address climate change, we're going to lose all our fisheries.
Most of the funding for Louisiana's coastal program comes from an environmental disaster, the 2010 oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico.
Louisiana will collect about $9 billion in fines and settlement money, which it's dedicating to restoration and hurricane defenses. Coming up, robotic waiters becoming the special of the day.
I've got a delivery for you.
Or a recipe for disaster.
Robots are not a long-term solution to ultimately a customer-facing industry.
The debate over bots serving tables and whether it's the future for restaurants.
But first, cutting-edge DNA technology uses family trees to solve decades-old crimes. We explore the alarming trends emerging from tracking cases that end in arrests. Forensic genetic genealogy has been touted as a game changer for solving decades-old cold cases.
While the DNA technology helps identify victims and bring families closure, just how many cases have actually resulted in arrests?
A company created the first ever database to find that answer, and they've already discovered some trends among solved cases.
Reporter Brianna Whitney has an in-depth look.
You've seen the headlines and press conferences, cold cases being solved left and right, often by forensic genetic genealogy, DNA in a database matched to ancestors by a family tree. Now, for the first time, we're actually seeing how much this has impacted true crime cases as a whole.
It's a treasure trove for anyone wanting to see the real-world impact of DNA and genetic genealogy with crime solving.
Mark McDermott founded Genealogy Explained and created the first searchable online database that shows cases solved by genetic genealogy, all coming from the Forensic Genetic Genealogy Project. To date, the database shows 621 criminal cases have been solved involving 293 perpetrators. McDermott says notably, this data shows the startling serial nature of so many rapists and killers.
One of the standout things was the sheer concentration of cases tied to a handful of perpetrators. So over 25% of the 621 cases are linked to just 10 individuals. So that's pretty staggering. The Golden State Killer, of course, was connected to 72 of those.
And much of these solved cases revealed another troubling statistic.
80% of these cases involve sexual violence.
It can be easy for the spotlight to fall on cases that happen in big cities and catch the attention of those who live nearby. But McDermott says the other big takeaway so far is where many of these cases are coming from.
These cases were primarily from lower income and rural U.S. counties, while the largest metro areas in the U.S. represented only a fraction of the cases.
As McDermott and his team continue to research and update their findings, his prediction that will change the game completely once law enforcement begins using forensic genetic genealogy on their own.
I'm pretty sure the data set is going to explode with new cases.
Another interesting thing about the database, it's interactive, so you can click on any case to learn details about it, where it happened, the victims involved, and which genealogy company solved it. There are a handful that list the FBI or law enforcement agencies as solving these cases, but by and large, this work is mostly being done by different companies who contract with law enforcement. In Phoenix, Arizona, I'm Brianna Whitney.
If you want to know more about how this DNA technology works and how they can use your family tree, just head to InvestigateTV.com and search Forensic Genealogy.
Hey, hi, Mrs. Riley. Is that for me?
Still ahead, this order isn't just food. Smiles and skills are packed into every drop-off.
Everyone needs to wake up in the morning and know that they have the ability to do something meaningful.
Ride along with a unique delivery service, finding purpose with each stop.
But first, a helping of sunshine, one serving at a time.
Please, take your food.
How robots could reshape the restaurant industry and bridge a critical employment gap.
We were recruiting actively, but we still were having a hard time getting enough people to come in.
You may have seen them zipping around a restaurant near you. Robot servers that deliver food to your table and carry dishes to the kitchen. Some can talk, some can even sing happy birthday.
Happy birthday, happy birthday.
But are they the future of the restaurant industry? According to the National Restaurant Association, in 2023, the industry was still down 450,000 jobs compared to pre-pandemic levels. That's the largest employment deficit in the country. For some, this automation is seen as a creative answer to those shortages. Others say these restaurant robots are just a gimmick and the solution needs to start with human employees.
Despite the debate, tens of thousands are now working in dining rooms around the world. Reporter Heather Graff spent the day with one of them.
Excuse me. It might look like you've been transported through time and space.
Please, take your food.
But it's just a Denny's outside Washington, D.C.
Enjoy.
And this is Sunny.
Sunny the robot. Cool name.
The robotic server works at the 24-hour diner, helping dish out meals and clear tables. Fascinating to many.
We really want to come here back again because I want that robots come and get us to give us food again.
And at times, perplexing.
When I first came in, we saw it and I was like, wow.
Manager Fitzgerald Lewis has been in the industry for a decade and says Sunny is a welcome addition to his staff.
So why did you ultimately decide to try it here?
It helps us provide better service.
And he says the robot, which is being leased for about $700 a month, is not replacing any jobs.
They assist the servers in bringing the food, taking back the dirty dishes.
And the servers are still interacting with the customer. The robot hasn't replaced that interaction.
I think in hospitality, it shouldn't be that the robots are replacing human beings. I think people, when they come in, they expect human interaction.
But Sunny and her robot counterparts are helping to bridge an unprecedented labor shortage in the restaurant industry.
We were recruiting actively, but we still were having a hard time getting enough people to come in and serve and do other things.
According to a recent survey by the National Restaurant Association, 62% of restaurant operators said they don't have enough employees to meet customer demand. And 80% said they have job openings that are difficult to fill. Today, robots like Sunny span the country in states like Oregon.
I've got a delivery for you.
Wisconsin.
Enjoy.
And Tennessee. But some aren't convinced machines are the answer.
Robots are very expensive and frankly are not a long-term solution to ultimately a customer-facing industry.
Saru Jayaraman, president of the nonprofit One Fair Wage, says it's simple. Existing staff should be supported first.
True innovation is paying people a livable wage, but I do think some restaurants are resisting that and trying to innovate by having robots or other forms of automation.
It's going to be the natural progression.
Dennis Reynolds is dean of the University of Houston's Hilton College of Global Hospitality Leadership and says he believes restaurant robots are the future.
Why do you think the trend of robots in restaurants has been gaining traction in the last few years?
Well, I mean, look at technology. This is just one more step. And I think that's where the world is going with more and more automation in all sectors of life.
The school's restaurant started using Erica, their robot, in December 2022. Reynolds says it has made service more efficient.
And we've had absolutely no problems, no trips, spills, falls.
But like with humans, accidents do happen, and robot servers have limits. For instance, many can't take orders and they can't maneuver stairs in multi-level dining spaces.
Would you like some napkins too?
Back at Denny's, server Kathleen Fuentes says she's still getting used to her robotic coworker, but the extra set of hands, so to speak, has been a plus.
It's helpful for us because we're rushing around and we don't have nobody to take the food for us.
Please, take your food.
The robot is also equipped with sensors that help it navigate around tables and corners in the restaurant, and yes, even people who get in its way. So for now, customers will continue to enjoy their meals.
Yeah, she loved it. She was laughing about it.
With a side of technology.
Have a good one.
Restaurant robots continue to gain popularity. In 2021, Bear Robotics introduced its Servi robot, and it's deployed more than 10,000 worldwide. Poodoo Robotics, founded in 2016, has sold more than 56,000 robots worldwide. But not all restaurants have had success with the machines.
Yeah, between 2020 and 2022, Chili's tested Rita robots in dozens of its stores, ultimately decided to put the program on pause. As long as my food is hot when it gets to the table, I'm okay with it.
I was a waiter in college, and I'll say that carrying the trays was tough. So if the robot wants to carry the food out, that's fine. But you know, the human interaction is great with human beings.
You meet the robot at the table.
Exactly, no doubt about that, yes. All right, next, an idea to help her brother blossomed into a business. Meet the smiling faces behind these special food deliveries. There's a lot of options for delivery these days.
You've probably heard of Uber Eats, DoorDash, or Instacart, but outside St. Louis, Missouri, they're not the only game in town.
Reporter Steve Harris shows us a company forging its own path by serving up more than just food.
24-year-old Lance Wygand loves riding in his electric car. Along for the ride, his sister Sam, his best friend Chris, and a very important delivery. Food for a neighbor.
Hi, Lance. Say hi, Mrs. Riley. Is that for me?
See, this is his job.
Say thank you.
Born with trisomy 4Q syndrome, Lance was the inspiration for the business that bears his name.
And we wanted to make sure when Lance got out of school that there was a meaningful
job for him to do.
Lance loves to be a part of the community. Lance loves going for car rides. We meshed the two together.
All of a sudden, a lot of friends of Lance asked if they could participate, if they could start making deliveries. And so we looked at it and said, is this enough? Do we have enough support that we want to turn this into a nonprofit?
So encouraged by that and a last name that fit the bill, Wagon Wheels Delivery was born.
Here is your delivery.
Good job. Creating an opportunity and meeting a need for people with developmental disabilities.
Once they graduate from high school, they age out of a lot of programming that once kept them busy during the day.
So here's how it works. On their website, they list a bunch of local places where you can buy boxed lunches, baked goods, food. You check the menu, you place your order, then they bring it to you, like this. Now they have more than 50 volunteers, known as Wagoneers.
Hello. I am a big help at the building.
For folks that may not necessarily be ready for competitive employment opportunities, we want to create a program that allows them to have the same sense of purpose that anyone else desires.
Here is your delivery.
Delivering smiles.
Thank you.
And more importantly, a purpose.
Everyone needs to wake up in the morning and know that they have the ability to do something meaningful.
And that's it for us on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. Thanks for watching.
On the next Investigate TV Plus, the struggle to protect African American grave sites.
Can you tell me, did you place our relatives in a mass grave?
We share one woman's quest for answers and hear from one state leading the way on keeping African American history alive.